Alright, this video will show you the top 3 mistakes that people make when using the law of attraction, and what I'm going to do is share with you ways that we can bypass it so that we don't have to experience it. We're going to be able to attract what we want faster and really be who we prefer to be. Welcome back to another video. My name is Aaron and I help people expand their consciousness. Now in this video, I'm going to share with you some of my own stories when it comes to the law of attraction process and how we can avoid these tiny little mistakes that we can make so that we can really get what we want faster, but at the core level of it, really be who we prefer to be right now in the present moment. So I would say that the number one thing when it comes to the law of attraction that a lot of people bypass or that people don't realize is that it's not so much about trying to attract anything from outside of us into our life. It's more about changing the way that we feel about ourselves, our beliefs about who we are, and how when we change our beliefs, we then get a new reflection in our life. So it's more about understanding that we always get a reflection of who we are being. Now I know I say that in a lot of my videos, but it's just so powerful, and it's the missing step and the missing link for so many people, because even though we might be focused on attracting, a certain car into our life or attracting a certain type of relationship, if we don't believe that we're worthy of that relationship or that car, and we're not aligning to the beliefs about that, which means the actions as well, we're not actually going to accomplish it or really find it in our experience. So for me, the first mistake that I made was trying to fix the sink when instead I had to fix the well. Now that's just an analogy, but think of it like this. What we must do is get to the core of what we believe to be true. And when we do that, then we get a new reflection in our life. Now let me explain to you a scenario that maybe you can relate to, or maybe you can see in your own life how this might apply. But this is something that happened when I was in 5th grade, and it was this summer camp that I went to. It was like after the 5th grade, going into the 6th grade year. And I remember that we were at this summer camp, and I remember we were in this Parks and Rec type place, and it was this place that I went for like the whole summer. And at the end of it, there was this dance that they had, and it was like if you were a certain age or up, you could go to this dance. And I remember that there was this teacher there that was probably like 18 or 19 years old, and she was pretty attractive. And I wanted to ask her if she would like go and dance with me. Now, I remember that when I went up to her to dance, and I was like, hey, will you dance with me? She was kind of like, oh, you're so cute, here's this kid that's like, young, not even a teenager yet, and he wants to dance with me. So she kind of laughed and was like, oh, let me find somebody for you. And then she ran and found like this girl that was my age to dance with, who was someone I didn't want to dance with. Now, when that happened, that memory, that little reference experience I had, ended up creating a meaning for me, a belief about who I was, and saying that I wasn't worthy of being able to be around or like approach women that I was attracted to. So what would happen is from that point going forward, I would subconsciously go up to women I was attracted to and I would start talking to them, and I would feel underneath the conversation that there was like almost this feeling that I wasn't worthy enough, or this feeling of nervousness. Now, of course, maybe the nervousness is natural, because when you go up to somebody and you put yourself out they're like that you can become a little bit vulnerable. But what I realized was that memory would flush in my mind every time I would approach someone I was attracted to. Now, what I learned how to do is I learned how to look at that memory, that reference experience, in a totally new way. And what I did is I realized it was just one experience that I had, that I was deriving a certain meaning to it, and what I decided to do was to simply let that go. This is something that I did years ago, and from that point going forward, it was like an instant lift off my chest, or like the weight on my back was let go of. And it was something that from that point going forward totally changed, because then I changed my self-image, it changed my beliefs as to what I'm worthy of, and since then it's been much easier for me to feel worthy or for me to approach someone I'm attracted to, and that's simply because I let go of that reference experience, that belief, and I went to the well rather than trying to fix the sink. So even though I may have gone and thought of and trying to attract more of a certain type of relationship or a certain type of person, the key was getting to the core of what we believe to be true and finding that reference experience that will show us what we believe about it. So because every time I would approach someone I was attracted to, that memory would come, what happens is I realized that I had to let that go, and that was the memory that was holding me back. So the key to this, and the mistake that so many people make, is that they try to attract something without first going within and changing the belief. And that's why I wanted to share it with you. Maybe you can see ways in your own life that that was something that is holding you back, and if you change that reference experience by first off becoming aware of it, reframing it, and seeing that it was just one experience, and then decide to let it go, and from that point, everything will begin to change. The second mistake that a lot of people make with the law of attraction is being attached to how things will manifest rather than being more concerned with your own state of being. So this is something that I learned. I learned that the one thing I always had control over was the way that I respond to the things that happen in my life. And the biggest block for so many people is if something happens that they didn't visualize, or something like a block happens and they start to associate something with being a block, what happens is that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Now, the key to this is anything that happens in your life, instead of seeing it as an external factor or something that is like a wrench that was thrown in, or something that is like an obstacle or something that's going to prolong you from attaining what you want, see it as a part of the process. Have it be more integrative rather than segregative. Now, what I mean by this is we might have a certain vision for something we want to create. Maybe it's a certain type of way something is going to happen. It's a business that we're creating. We want to do our passion for a living, and we're focused on doing that. Now, if something comes in and maybe like there's a little hiccup in the process, if we automatically start assuming that that is going to be a block, that we should maybe give up, we should reconsider it, then it goes against our initial blueprint for what we created. But understand that the blueprint we created was nothing more than a symbol of something and one way that it could happen. It was one way we could go about it. But when instead we become much more adaptive, we start to realize that we can associate the events that come into our life with something that we can learn from, something that we can almost add to the pile. That's when things really begin to change. Now, this is something I applied because I realized that anytime I would start to associate and label things in my life as a problem or something I had to take care of, in that way, if there was a negative connotation underneath it, it would end up creating more resistance. So instead what I did is, in a way, I was almost excited when things would come into my life. Instead, if something came that looked like a block, I would see it as an opportunity, maybe even just an opportunity to learn, but I would take it as that, and as I would associate it and I would call it an opportunity, I would start to get benefit out of it. Now, I'm a firm believer that everything in life is fundamentally neutral, and that depending upon our own beliefs and our own labelings as to what things mean, that is the effect we get out of it. So the next time something negative, something that appears to be negative happens in your life, start to know that regardless of what that is, you are going to get a positive effect. Even if that positive effect is that you become more aware of what you really want, or you learn a lesson, or that now you know what not to do. If you start to associate the labels that you have with something that you can get something out of, then you're going to start to transform the whole way you see the process. So the second one, once again, is understanding that our definitions are implying and self-fulfilling prophecies in a way. And if we start to assume that things don't have to be mistakes, things don't have to be blocks or obstacles, we can then see that it's a part of the process, we can learn from it, and that really it is what we make it. Now, the third mistake that is most common to make has to do with trying to focus on so many different things. We might want to make changes in our life, and we might be focused on trying to control every little aspect of our life. But what I found is most powerful is to start with one change at a time, with the focus intently on one thing in order to attract what we want. Now, let me give you an example of this. Back in the day when I started this YouTube channel, I was creating a video a week. Now, I've explained this story many times, but basically back in February, just to keep it short, I decided to make a video a day. I thought to myself, what is the one thing that if I did every day would make the most amount of change over the course of the next year? And I thought to myself, I could create one video a day and make it a must, something that I have to do. Now, let me tell you why that is so much more powerful than if I was like, I want to, grow my YouTube and grow Instagram and grow all of these different things rather than just focus on one thing. Well, what happened is the energy becomes dispersed. It becomes like you get a whole bunch of little momentum going rather than one thing. So what I want to encourage you to do is to start off with one thing at a time. Maybe it's a certain diet that you have, but you don't have to decide that you're going to go all out. You're just going to get rid of all the food that you're eating and you're just going to start working out for 2 hours a day and you haven't worked out, in weeks. The idea is that what you do is you start off small, and as you do that, you can build up, but make it about one thing. Now, if it's you're doing your passion for a living, focus on doing something related to your passion every single day. The things that build up over time are the things that have the most power. Think of this almost in the form of exponential growth rather than trying to do a whole bunch of little things. Now, the reason I say this is because when it comes to the law of attraction, you need a lot of focus going in one direction. If we have a little bit of focus in this direction, a little bit of focus in this direction, a little bit of focus in this direction, it's like we don't really gain the momentum that we need. So if your intention is to find great, massive results in your life, what I encourage you to do is to find one thing, the highest leverage thing that you could be doing, and to do that thing, to be present while you do it, and to really continue to do it day after day after day. Now, that's what I think is so powerful, is really being able to put all the energy in one direction, and how when we do that, we really start to gain powerful momentum. So remember the 3 mistakes that most people make, that if we learned, so remember that the top 3 mistakes people make when it comes to the law of attraction is, first off, trying to fix the sink when instead we should fix the well. Get to the core of what you believe to be true. Simply ask yourself the question, what do I believe to be true about myself? What is my self-image? And as you ask these questions, you'll see memories come to the forefront. You can decide to look at them, to let them go, and then make a decision that you're going to be who you prefer to be. That secondly, what you can do is realize that as you let go of how things are going to happen, you allow a grander picture to come into place. As you don't focus on things being self-fulfilling prophecies when it comes to definitions, to problems, to things not being a part of the process, you're going to start to shift yourself to being more integrative, to allowing things to flow through rather than creating resistance. Thirdly, as you are focused on one thing you can do every day, you're able to build up momentum, realize you have to focus your energy in one direction to get massive results. And as you start to do that, you will start to see that reflection in your life. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Feel free to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you haven't already, and also make sure you hit that little notification button next to the subscribe button so that you're able to see the daily vids I do. So with that being said, peace. Much love, namaste.